Before we get rolling on the pesto, Tracey's going to get the water boiling so we have some pasta to toss with it. And really you have a delicious meal for your family in 15 minutes. So pesto is a basic formula. We're going to use the proportion of 2 cups of greens and either arugula or scape. You're going to use a 1/4 cup of an herb that enhances it. And for the scape, we're going to use basil. For the arugula, we're going to use mint. So really, just to give you an idea that you can mix and match according to what you have in abundance. There isn't one set rule for making pesto, including the nut. Traditional Genovese pesto is pine nut, but we're going to use pumpkin seed. It's what we had in the cupboard. It's what we're going to use. We're going to use pumpkin seed for the arugula. We're going to use walnut for the scape pesto. And pecans are also a delicious nut, but we're going to hold back on those today.
Yeah, typically you would use a pine nut, which can be really expensive and sometimes hard to find. So I think these are a good alternative.
And really, you just want an oily nut. Yeah. And they say that they all improve in their flavor by a little toasting, and that could just be done in a saute pan or a toaster oven. And then you want to give it a little punch. It can either be lemon juice or salt or a little combination of both. And then the thing that makes pesto so delicious is the olive oil.
And look for a good extra virgin cold pressed olive oil, because you're really going to taste the olive oil in this. So you don't want to get kind of mediocre olive oil and it just doesn't add a good flavor. So look for a really good cold pressed extra virgin organic olive oil if you can find it.
And really, when I use the cold pressed oil, I'm really thinking that's my salad oil. That's the one that I'm going to enjoy fresh and you know, unadulterated, not sautéed and cooked. So really, your salad oil should be the best olive oil you can find. Yeah. And Parmesan is the traditional kind of punchy, salty cheese. We're going to add it at the very end. It's something that could be tossed in later. But
or you could go without the cheese as well.
You can. So we're going to get started with the arugula pesto here with our modern day mortar and pestle, known as the Cuisinart. And one little tip that I want to share with you is if you're preparing a recipe and you're using the Cuisinart and it calls for garlic, the easiest way to mince garlic using this tool is with the machine dry and lots of fun here. You can figure out how to shut it. It's usually half the battle. There we go. With the machine dry and running, you're just going to drop in your cloves of garlic. And it does a beautiful mince. You can do this with ginger as well if you happen to be using a recipe that calls for ginger. But you can just see it with the dry machine. If the machine is not dry, it just sticks. So we're going to start with our minced garlic.
How much mint do you want? About 1/2 cup?
Yeah, well, the recipe the formula that we're using, I want to use my hand measurement here. So I'm going to use this as 1 cup. So 2 cups of arugula. And formulas are forgiving.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to measure exactly. If you're a little light on the arugula and you have some baby spinach in the fridge, feel free to add a little bit in. So arugula.
You cannot screw a pesto up. Just if it's too garlicky, add a little more olive oil and some more greens. Or if you feel like it's just a little too pungent with the mint, then just add a little bit more arugula.
So what I say, my rule of thumb with the pesto is 20 pulses on your Cuisinart. I'm going to just get this started, and then I'm going to add the salt and the nut so that it doesn't get too, you don't really want a nut butter, you want little bits of nut that give it some texture. And I'm going to say 20 pulses, so you can bear with me. So 20 pulses just to kind of get it knocked down. I say 20 as a rule of thumb. I'm going to pull out the little straw from the garden and give it a few more.
Grass is good too.
Just a few more pulses to kind of knock down that green.
Now, why wouldn't you put the olive oil in with the greens?
Well, the dry herb is really whole. It's not going to get bruised and battered, especially if it's basil. You know how it blackens when you beat it up.
Okay.
So if you have a dry herb, you're going to get just a nice fluffy beginning, and then really I add everything else. You could add, I don't think it would hurt it to add the olive oil.
Yeah, I typically just throw it all in together, but it's good to know that actually you'll probably use less olive oil if you've minced it first.
So 1/3 cup, that's 1,001, 2, 3. 1/4 cup of nuts, and we've used the, really the hand is an amazing measuring tool.
Pumpkin seeds are so good for you. They have a lot of minerals that we don't get in a lot of our food. So it's a great way to kind of hide these into your pestos and sauces, and your kids will never know it.
Now, the reality is I'm going to make this and then I'm going to taste it and I'm going to see if it needs a little more salt or a little lemon, if it needs some more olive oil to really give me the creamy consistency I'm looking for. And this just needs a couple pulses till the pesto the nuts are running quietly. Actually, I think I'm going to scrape this down once just to get the garlic that's around the edge. And actually, I'm going to give it one more swirl of olive oil just to... There is a recipe, 2 cups of greens, 1/4 cup of herb, 1/4 cup of nuts, and 1/3 cup of olive oil. If you want to measure exactly, just to give yourself a sense of what the proportions should look like. But really, it's about as easy as this. I'm going to give it a little taste. It's kind of a rough, vibrant green. Might run just a little bit more, huh? And a taste.
Let me taste.
Sure. The arugula is a peppery green, salad green that has a punch. And when you add that flavor with the cheese and the nuts and the olive oil and the garlic, the flavor really comes through. I think it's delicious. Really how I love arugula in this form.
Arugula is so fresh and minty. I would say maybe a little more olive oil only because we want it to coat the pasta.
It does look a little bit dry, so maybe my 1/3 cup
I think you counted too fast.
It could be this pour. Can I blame it on something else?
Yeah.
Really, who doesn't love more oil? And so good for you.
It's a good monounsaturated fat, very heart healthy.
As is the garlic and the green, right?
Yeah, great for building your immune system. And of course, all the greens have good chlorophyll and are very cleansing to your body.
Every Cuisinart is created different, I swear. It's like the lineup. The Roman times, how long did it take them to grind that mortar and pestle?
We're very spoiled with our high-tech gadgets.
You can definitely see with that little bit more oil how the color is definitely lightened.
And pestos are great to go on pasta. They can go on crackers. You could put it on a nice brown rice. You could put it on, of course, some kind of nice French bread, a baked potato, pizza. You can use it. And actually, a great way to do this is to make your pesto when all these nutrients are fresh, or all these the scapes and the arugula are fresh, and then you can freeze it and have it in the middle of winter.
Right. Before you add the Parmesan, though, right? If you're going to
freeze it. I've heard both. I know people that freeze it with the Parmesan. I would have said not to, but if you screw up and put the cheese in, just throw it in the freezer. It'll be fine.
This is delicious, vibrant, and let's check on that pasta, shall we? Or are we going to go to, let's do the scape pasta, and then
So we'll wash this out, and we'll come back, and we'll go ahead and get the scapes ready, and then we'll go ahead and toss it on some pasta.
All right. Thanks.